What about the middle of the park? I mean, Arne Slot's playing 4 of them in recent games, hasn't he? We've seen that against City. We saw it against Villa as well. Not so rotated back to what you call normal against Newcastle. But yeah, the 4 senior boys, they're there, aren't they? No two ways about it. There's not a chance unless a ridiculous amount of money arrives on the table for one of those 4 that they are being sold. Even then, I just don't think Dominic Szoboszlai, Alexis McAllister, Curtis Jones, Ryan Gravenberch are going anywhere. That is the solid 4 to build on. And in fact, when you talk about those 4, is there a better central midfield combination in the Premier League? City's legs have gone, haven't they? In the middle. Arsenal, you could argue they've got 67 defensive midfielders, even that play up front half the time as well. So there's that argument. But what a collective 4 we have there. Absolutely brilliant. And they are playing most weeks. Maybe it's injuries that have robbed Curtis of a few minutes here and there. But in terms of those players, something great to build on. It's I don't want to be unkind, but almost, I want to say the backup, maybe that's too strong. But it's the 5th and 6th choices, let's put it that way, who I think have got big questions to ask. Now, people are going to jump on me for this and say, Harvey Elliott, youngster, got plenty of time to develop, still to hit his peak. Liverpool fan, does all the right things, says all the right things. Look at his dad on the documentary. They go home and away. Before he got the injury last season, super sub, all those things, I completely understand. I am not disagreeing with any of those. Let's just look at some facts of Harvey Elliott under Arne Slot this season. A grand total in all competitions of 503 minutes. And that includes 2 full 90 minutes in the FA Cup, people, and mainly the Carabao. I mean, if you actually take away the Cups, he's played 76 minutes, not even a full game in the Premier League. That's quite startling when you say it out loud. Now, here's the mitigation. The broken foot kept him out till November. You can see that. But let's just have a look at recent pickings. Look at this. Look at these Premier League games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In his last 6 Premier League games, 1 minute. He came on for 1 minute at the end against Manchester City. Yeah. Before those, he did 2 games in a row. You could say he came on as sub, but only 22 minutes against Ipswich. I mean, my honest take on this, if you're not going to play Harvey Elliott against Ipswich at home, remember how almost, I'm not trying to be too disrespectful, but that was a stroll, that game. We won it in second gear. If he's only going to get 22 minutes against Ipswich, where is Harvey Elliott going to get his minutes? Even before. Now, it looks 10 minutes against Brentford. And you give him his due. He made that pass, didn't he? When Trent squares it for the deflection and then Nunes. Harvey Elliott is what I would refer to as a game state player. Very specific circumstances facilitate Harvey Elliott's best performances for Liverpool because of our shape and the way we set up. It's got to be a game where we are pinning the opposition in. Trying to break them down, get maybe a late goal. That is a time for Harvey Elliott, who can just play a cute little pass, something smart round the corner. Not been too many of those this season. And I just think, as the evidence says, Arne Slot doesn't fancy this player. Physicality, I think, ultimately counts against him. If you're not going to have wild physical attributes like a Dominic Szoboszlai or Ryan Gravenberch, you've got to be something maybe more. You've got to be an Alexis McAllister. I just don't think Harvey is that. And I remember I was talking to a friend about this last game. He said, you hate him. He said, no, I love so much about Harvey, his attitude, what he wants to do. I just don't see a long-term future at Liverpool for him. I think he has a decision to make this summer Does he want to stay at the club he loves, boyhood, but accept where he is in the pecking order? And likely someone's going to come in. I don't think there's much doubt of that at all, is there? Or do you want to move on, as a few papers linked you to the likes there? But I think it was Brighton, wasn't it? Villa came up. There was someone else. I can't remember who the links were at sort of January time for around 40 million quid. But be a star there. Be a starter. He has decisions to make. Stephen Landry there saying, I expect Elliott to move on, agrees. Slot doesn't rate him and Elliott needs and wants regular minutes. I agree with that, Stephen. I mean, there was a bizarre thing, wasn't there, from Tim Sherwood this morning saying that, he was angry. I mean, I was at the game. He wasn't angry. He wasn't scowling. He wasn't kicking things on the bench. He's just naturally going to be disappointed. Mike there as well saying, yeah, Harvey plays a point, doesn't it? The PSR offload may make sense, but only if they bring someone in. Yeah, if you do sell Harvey Elliott, the reality is it's booked, as the Premier League say, isn't it, under the PSR rules? It's booked to pure profit. So that may come into the thinking as well. Ultimately, maybe the decision is Harvey Elliott. We'll have to see what happens there. This man as well. I actually say this with such sadness. Wataru Endo, Wata, as they call him in all the press conferences. Actually, more minutes than Harvey Elliott. 712 in all competitions. And just recently, if you were making a case for keeping, and by the way, I'm a proper cult hero, Endo. I love the way that mouth guard goes in and we step to war and we smash into people. We take everything. And he helps you out games, doesn't he? You think of Wolves recently, even City, they're part of the safeguard. Just the 19, 20 minutes he plays have been important recently. And if you look at the last 4 games in isolation, he's come on 3 times. I just wonder if Arne Slot is starting to trust him a bit more. That game there, do you remember the draw at Goodison? Oh, that 2-2. If you would ask Arne Slot or shoot some truth serum, I think he would admit that Endo he would have brought on maybe regrets that. Hey, sliding doors moments in football. But I think there's real trust from Slot now in Endo. And he's also talked to Arne Slot about Endo's attitude and how good that is in his press conferences and how much he's impressed. And you think that's nothing, just think about the players he's talked about on the other side recently and been quite critical of. So that stands in good stead. All that being said, Endo made a call last summer, didn't he? Do you remember when we rejected that bid from Marseille and it came in and all the briefings were quite clear that Arne Slot didn't fancy him in that 6 and he would be well down the pecking order. Like the absolute leader and warrior, took it on the chin, said, I'm not having it. I will prove you wrong to Arne Slot. And maybe slowly but surely, as I say, the trust is gaining. It is very late in the season, though. He is 32 years old. It's that age where you want to be playing week in, week out. Yeah, it's a tough one. If you ask, this is where I'm swithering a bit. I would love him to stay around, but I actually think there'll be a departure of ways with Endo, with everyone's best wishes. He is a hero, as Paolo Catano says there. Yeah, he is our Japanese hero. He is a cult figure. We absolutely adore him. There's no 2 ways about it. I just wonder, at 32 years old, with clearly another midfielder to come in, so his minutes could get squeezed even more, how he feels about that. It would be no surprise to me. I suspect there will be clubs who are interested in Endo, both in the Premier League, the Bundesliga. Could, Marseille or anyone come back in? We'll have to see. Yeah, Endo's one. I would lean towards I think he will depart, but it's not as clear cut for me. Listen, there's a lot of people defending Elliott, saying maybe, as Ernest says there, maybe with the preseason, it will help him more. Very possible, Ernest, but I'm still struggling to see him get his minutes, even with another midfielder likely to come into the mix. Is he happy with that? Andy saying she thinks Elliott is going nowhere. Time will tell on that, I suppose, Angie, but I am just struggling to see Harvey Elliott and Endo being at Liverpool next season. Those are not, as I said there, foregone conclusions by any means, but a midfielder is likely to come in, and I suspect those two depart.